Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us on the third day of our Africa panels. We've got today a finance-focused sector that we're going to be talking to some of the amazing alumni that have joined the MBA over the few years that have gone past. And I think that I'm very proud that we've got an all-female panel as well talking about finance, which is very impressive. And going, as you know, some of you know that we're on one of the pretty much only European MBA that have achieved 51% over 50% of women attending an MBA. So this is very special, and we're very proud to have the panel that we have today is speaking to you. Thank you for joining us. I know some people are still joining the webinar, so thanks for your patience and for being here today. My name is Florisa Martinez, and I'm the MBA Recruitment and Admissions Manager for Africa, Latin America, and Middle East. And I am here as well, joined by some of my colleagues from the Admissions MBA that are going to be helping answer some of the questions that you may have about admissions requirements. So the main thing of the panel and how it's going to work is your questions are going to be answered live by our audience and by our panel. If you have any questions that are specific about admissions, pop them on the chat, but we're going to try to talk about the experience that our four panelists went through during this year of the MBA. So please, questions aimed at their career in finance, how they found the MBA, how they were supported by the lecturers, the career center, and any other questions that you may have, pop them in the chat. And we're going to be picking them to basically ask our panelists. If you have any specific question as well for an individual, you can ask and put their name or who you are directing that question to. So for starters, we're going to start introducing each of the panelists. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, talk about basically a little bit about themselves, tell you where they're from, and then you can hear more from them. So I'm going to start with you, Hannah. Could you introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Flo. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hannah Sibanda. I was part of the class of 2020, yes, an awkward year. I currently work at British International Investment as an investment manager in the financial services debt team. You're on mute, Flo.
Yeah, I was just trying to click on it. Sometimes it works with my spacebar, sometimes it doesn't. Thank you so much, Hannah. Charlene, can you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Flo. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Charlene Kikunze. I'm based out of Nairobi, Kenya. I graduated from the 2023 class, so I guess almost most recent class. And I am currently an investment executive at Metier, which is a private equity fund that's based out of South Africa and has offices across Nairobi, Joburg, London, Mauritius.
Wow, thank you so much, Charlene, for joining us as well. And now, Bule, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure, lovely. Thanks for having me. My name is Bule Ndlovu. I'm based out of Joburg. I feel a little bit older than other people. I'm part of the class of 2018. I'm currently a VP in the investment team of Casada Capital Management, where we invest into hospitality across Africa.
Wow, thank you so much. And we also have another panelist here. She'll be joining us in a bit. So we will ask her to introduce herself in a minute when Kate Canny is joining us in a bit. But again, so we're going to start our panel Q&A with some of the questions from the audience. So please feel free to pop them in the chat. I can see that a lot of people have joined us. So please put your questions in the chat. But I'm going to start with a question for Charlene. Charlene, well, it's going to be for everybody, but I'm going to start with you, Charlene, so you answer it. Did you work in finance before joining the MBA, or did you pivot to finance?
I was actually working in finance before the MBA, but I was working in venture capital. So now I pivoted into private equity after the MBA.
Fantastic. Okay. What about you, Bukhle?
Yeah, I guess I've always kind of been in finance. So majority of my background was really in mergers and acquisitions advisory as part of investment banking. But the 2 years prior to my MBA, I was at a private equity fund in Nairobi. So I didn't really pivot. I actually kind of moved back home, to be honest, post the MBA, which is kind of nice. But I'd been in private equity prior to the MBA.
Okay, fab. So you were already in the industry. That's great. And what about you, Hannah?
Same. I've always worked in finance, so not a pivot for me. The only thing that changed was my geography and sort of the nature of the work I was doing in finance.
Yeah, sometimes like there's people that want to change careers completely, that change sectors, and then people who maybe like you guys that want to change geographies as well. So that can also be tricky, how to like applying for new jobs in an area or a geography that you were not before. But I guess in your cases, you were working there already. So well, in this matter, like knowing that you were already working in finance, but then you wanted to accelerate your career or kind of pivot within finance. There is a question here from the audience that says, which resources provided by the career service were most instrumental in helping you achieve your career objective? So were you supported throughout the MBA by the careers team to basically get that job that you wanted? Did you have an ideal of where you wanted to be, like what companies you wanted to target? Hannah, for example.
Yeah, as I said, I was doing something different in finance. I have a heavy quantitative background, and I was looking to move to more client-facing type role. So what I found useful from the careers team was one, the alumni network. So the careers team did a good job of helping me connect with alums in sort of the type of work I was targeting to do, as well as people who had worked in London, which is where I was targeting to work. I found that very helpful. I also found it helpful to discuss how to structure my CV. If anyone else is a quant, your CV looks very weird compared to client-facing type roles. So it was very helpful to work with Dan and the team to sort of tailor my CV to be more attractive for client-facing roles.
Great. And what about you, Buhle?
Yeah, I think so I guess I was sort of one of the co-chairs of the Africa OBN in my year, and one thing that we were very adamant about, or we really wanted to sort of integrate, was really I guess they're not called OBNs anymore. I'm not really sure what they're called, but
There's
that was
still OBNs.
Are they still called OBNs?
Yes.
But yeah, I was one of the co-chairs of the Africa Business Network, and the one thing we really wanted to do was ensure that the Africa Business Network as a club is really integrated with the career services. So the one thing that really was sort of really helpful was that we kind of just took it upon ourselves that even we do this huge conference each year for Africa, we made sure that, pre the conference, there was a ton of recruiters coming from not just like London-based Africa businesses, but actually from Kenya, from South Africa, and sort of integrating that with the processes of the career services. So again, even before that, they would help you with your CVs, etc. But on the actual day and prior to that, we'd sort of get 10, 20 people, 10, 15 people to sort of sit with each of these companies, which the career services was really great about. So sort of really sort of helping us drive that process, because at the end of the day, I think a lot of people might want to pivot, but a lot of them also might want to pivot back to Africa. So a lot of it's really great to sort of meet people in London, but you really want to have that experience of sort of Johannesburg, Lagos, Nairobi, and career services did a really good job of sort of integrating that with our club, but also just sort of the conference. So that was really, really helpful. It was quite practical as well, to be honest.
I think that is very, very important, and like having that connection with the continent, because we know that a lot of our African students that come do go back to Africa because they want to go back to work there, but also even the non-African candidates that come to study the MBA, they are so fascinated about the Africa focus that the program has. They come to the Africa elective, and then they also want to come and work in Africa. So having that embedded in the careers team and that connection, that's great. I didn't know that that's how it came about. So well done for 2018. What about you, Charlene? How did you use the Career Center to your advantage?
Yeah, so I think for me, because I pretty much knew what I wanted to do post MBA, I wasn't like trying to figure out which industry I'm trying to get into, I basically utilize the career services towards more or less the period when I was applying for internships. And so they were very useful in terms of curating my CV for the companies that I'm looking to get into. Also, I think one thing that I particularly found very useful, and Hannah also mentioned this, was in terms of connection to the alumni. They would know that there are people who have gone through a similar process as you have, and they would probably now connect you to them. And so that was also very useful for me. I think one thing that really stood out was particularly during the interview processes. So if you know about finance, like you go through multiple interview rounds. And so I knew that the intensity of each interview round needed like preparation. And so the career services team really walked with me through that entire process, essentially because I know that I'd been in finance, but then there's a particular way in which, let's say, for instance, PE usually interviews. And so I was able to get prep from people within the career services team, and also people who they also referred me to, the people who are experts within the industry, people who actually carry out these interviews. So I think that was also very, very, very useful for me.
Yeah, the mock interviews are really something that a lot of people mention through the years that are like really important. You don't always get that opportunity to practice before going in a specific sector interview. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, guys. We've got one of our other panelists have just joined us. So Kate Canny, hi, thank you so much for joining us today. Would you like to introduce yourself to our lovely audience today?
Thank you so much, Flo, and apologies to everyone. My name is Katekani Shaise. I am based out of the Johannesburg office of Rand Merchant Bank. We are an African bank that has global footprint, and I have been at RMB so pre and post MBA. So my role at RMB is Business Development Manager and Strategy, and I look after the broader Africa and international portfolios.
Thank Katkani. Thank you so much for joining, and don't worry about being late. We're fine. We've just been chatting, and we're getting into some of the questions that people are asking more things. So we're going to continue with the questions about the actual course content. So we've talked about the careers team and how it helped you get to where you are, and how you also helped like shape the sector and how we do recruitment in the careers team with Africa. But let's talk about the content of the course. And if you are obviously talking to prospect students, people are thinking of coming onto the MBA to go into finance, what in your year was one of the most memorable courses, or one of the things that you think, oh, people should definitely join if they're thinking of going on a finance career? Katakani, can you answer that one?
Sure. So I think for me, my strategy was really, just to explore first and foremost, because I had always been in banking. I really wanted to make sure that I see what else is out there. So I did take up other courses, but also just wanting to be able to test other sort of specific or core areas. So that was my key sort of foundational approach. Still allow myself to explore, but at the same time, really knowing that sort of the banking, monetary, financial services side of things is really what I want to look at, whether it's financial inclusion, whether it's impact investing, there is that finance element. I did also speak to a few of the alumni as well. That really helped me, because when you come into the MBA, there's so many options, there's so much you could potentially be looking at. So I did need a level of grounding just to bring me down to earth and say, okay, at the end of this all, you will need to make a decision. So really speaking to some of the alumni that have gone through the same pattern and same process, that really helped in terms of them giving me advice. So for example, someone said to me, just start writing down some of the things that you sort of see yourself doing post-MBA, and then that can just inform the subject choices that you are taking. So that was really helpful for me. I hope that helps.
Yes, well, actually, like you four are the alumni that are giving the tips today to the lovely audience that have joined. So thank you so much. That is very useful. What about you, Charlene? What were the highlights of the content that you think, okay, these are the lectures or the electives that definitely helped my my year?
Yeah, I think for me, because I was very laser focused and I knew what it is exactly that I wanted to do, I really did enjoy mergers and acquisitions. I also did take a course in private equity. I did take the essentials because there is an essentials and there's an advanced. So just wanted to, I didn't want to jump ahead myself, and I needed to understand the essentials first. But I think, yeah, M&A was actually quite instrumental for me. I mean, outside of finance, shameless plug, I really enjoyed doing business in Africa. So that was also one of my memorable courses. But yeah, obviously with reference to finance, those are the two.
Thank you. Bukhle, what about you?
I was about to say if I could just unmute myself. I think there's quite a few. I think because I came from obviously a pretty hard mergers and acquisitions PE background already, I really was more interested in sort of broadening my horizon a little bit in terms of other subjects that were not as hard, if that makes sense. And like geographically, I'd always worked really in Asia and Africa, so that was also my background. So specifically, there's quite a few courses I really enjoyed, but I think I also really enjoyed them for essentially pushing you to think a bit further or having more of an entrepreneurial view of things, because any person here who's an investor will tell you, yes, you can do the numbers, but you sort of, even if you're not an entrepreneur, there's like a way you have to think about things. So entrepreneurial finance with Hellman, really, really enjoyed that. Negotiations, these are all electives, also really, really enjoyed that. International business, probably one of my favorites. I actually was laughing because a case study came up and it was a case study about a transaction that my team had worked on. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know how true this case study is and this, but I think all those three are probably my favorite three electives. And really because they kind of just really push you to think outside of the box a little bit. And then sometimes that's kind of the skill you need, especially if you've come from a place where it's very boxed in and you always have to think a certain way. So I think that made me a better investor, to be honest. So those are really three great electives I enjoyed.
That's really, really good. I think you are right. You can come, if you come from a finance background, you kind of want to come in like, okay, see what else is out there. Like for those who are already in finance and want to continue growing, exploring different options. So, I mean, and you know the world that the MBA comes with, so diverse, so many different backgrounds of people that join you. So that global network that you get, and then the lecturers that are also very much from different parts of the world, their experiences. It all makes you an all-round better professional, regardless of what sector you go into. But that's a very good point. Thank you so much. Hannah, what about you? What are your opinions on the content and what you enjoy the most?
Yeah, I echo Bushle's comments as well. I think when you're coming from already technical background, you're not looking for the technical courses. However, they are very good technical courses for those people who perhaps need that, the private debt, private equity classes, and some of the core classes, accounting and the likes. Those are very good foundational courses. For myself, I work in impact investing. So I took the impact investing elective, which was very, very good. I highly recommend it. It's not necessarily financials, it's just how do you think about certain things as an impact investor? What are the questions we should be asking? What kind of structures could you be putting together? The other one that I found to be very good was the Go-To project. I don't know if that still happens, but especially in impact investing, I think looking at the world on a high level, looking at solving macro issues, that was a very good course to think about that and the dynamics of having to set up your own team, manage your own project. All of that goes into what being an investor is. You need to set up a team, you need to manage your own timelines and set targets and the like. So I found that to be very useful as a way to gather certain soft skills. The one course I wish I had taken, but I didn't because I prioritized impact investing, is the tech one. Just because tech is ubiquitous, it is the way the world works now, and particularly in finance, if you follow financial news, that is where everything is happening. It is important for a financial person to understand tech, to be upskilled in that, and I heard good things about it, so I would recommend that as well.
I will echo the tech one. I took it. I really enjoyed it. London was also great, so it was nice to just get out of the office, get out of Said and go to London and do something different, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, we still run that elective, so you will have a fintech elective in London. So for those who are looking into this technology side of financial world, like Hannah just said, it's very much embedded now, and that's a very, very good elective that a lot of people sign up for. So you have to get in there first because there's limited spaces as well. And talking about getting in there first, there is another common denominator that I get asked a lot, and I think having your input would be great. If any of you join the finance lab, we have a question from the audience, and this is a generic question that always comes up, especially with people that are looking into a finance career. Did any of you join the finance lab? Hannah's shaking her head. Charlene, no.
No, I was in finance lab. Yeah.
Sorry?
I was in finance lab.
Okay, you were. Like, can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Ooh, you're asking, this was 6-7 years ago, so I might not be the best person, but I think it's really more, it's really great for fundamentals. It's great because you also get to work in teams, but also it's very practical. So very often, I think, you know, and it's the point of business school, and sometimes there were definitely classes that were not as practical. Finance lab is not during office hours, it's after class. You sit there, you're answering questions, you go up to the board, you think about how you put things together, and some answers might not necessarily be there, and there might be a sort of a better answer. It's not necessarily 1 + 1 = 2. There's definitely a lot of thinking around what drives you to that. So I think in general, it was a great course, especially for fundamentals, if you've never done finance before. I think the majority of the class was also, it was their first time really doing finance. If you're going to go into sort of anything in terms of finance, be it PE, be it just if you're thinking of going into even investment banking, I think it's a really good fundamental class. You learn a lot, get a nice little certificate as well to say you finished finance lab. But I think in general, we all enjoyed it. It's a really good refresher as well of just basics. After a while, you sort of learn bad habits in finance. It's a nice sort of way of going back and go, oh, actually, I would have sort of gone from step 1 to step 20, but it's really important to sort of go through the motion of why you're doing A, B, and C. So yeah, I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's perhaps, yeah, like you said, it might have changed a little bit since you did it. There is a lot of approach to working with companies in finance. They bring speakers and the HR people from the finance sector to give lectures and talk to you. So you will be exposed to basically loads and loads of like very important high profile companies and people who can help you accelerate your career. Katikani, you want to add something?
Thank you, Flo. So I did not do finance lab myself, just to share with everyone that as you are thinking about your application, the actual application, also think about these extra things, because I think finance lab is one of them. And the opportunities that are there, that if you don't really put your mind to it beforehand, I mean, before you know it, you're in Oxford, and, you know, these tracks start. And if it's something that you would have wanted to be a part of, at least start thinking about it now so that you get your applications in beforehand. So over and above the formal application form, there's these various other opportunities. So I think for me personally, it's something that I would have loved to do, but I missed because I was so focused on the formal stuff.
Absolutely. I think that, and the finance lab is a perfect example because you have to apply for it as well. Like once you're accepted into Oxford, then you have to apply for the finance lab because there's a set amount of spaces that they can have. And so knowing well in advance what are things that you want to do, because the 12 months go so fast. And then there is a question that I'm going to ask all of you later about, like, what is the one thing that you wish you could have done and you didn't, now that in hindsight? But this is the thing, like the 12 months go very quickly and you want to really make sure that you choose what's going to be the most beneficial to you. And you don't know, you never know where life's going to take you. We know some people come with an idea and they think that, oh, I'm definitely want to work in finance, but then opportunities arise and things change. But it's good to come up with a plan before you join the MBA and ask the questions. We are with the admissions team and the recruitment team here will always be happy to also answer questions in relation to the program. So yeah, I have the next question, which I think is very interesting. So I'm going to ask all of you, given that you are from Africa and that some of you are going back to work in Africa, how did the MBA or doing business in Africa expand your insights in Africa? Because you were already coming from that geography. Who would like to answer that? I know you perhaps were obviously exposed to other nationalities within Africa that you might have not spoken to before. So perhaps Hannah.
I'm the worst person to ask this question because I didn't do doing business in Africa.
Okay. You did business in Africa.
So I can go.
During COVID, it was cancelled.
Oh no, was it?
Yeah, so I didn't do the elective. Actually, there was a class that was being delivered in the campus side that I actually attended. It wasn't an elective that I had chosen. I think one of my friends, one of my classmates had recommended that it would be interesting for us to just sit in that course. But just to answer your question, well, there's doing business or working in Africa, but like for me, what I'd been exposed to was basically East Africa. I used to hear about like West and South, but I think what the MBA did was it basically expanded my interest and my knowledge in terms of all these different jurisdictions and understanding how nuanced they are. Like whatever it is that's happening in Kenya is not definitely what's happening in Nigeria or South Africa. Like the different dynamics in terms of the macros, the political status and everything. And so I think for me, that was something that I really was able to expand my mind and my knowledge on. And also just interacting with my classmates as well from different parts of the continent. I think you're able to understand the different challenges that are currently being faced in those different countries, and understand, obviously it expands your way of like trying to think of solutions or problems that are being faced in these different countries. So you can look at Africa as just like, it's not a country, right? It's a continent that's being has different unique countries, cultures, and the likes. And so I think it's really beneficial that the MBA program has and is deliberate about inviting people from across the continent to come and experience the program with you, because it's not just what you learn, it's also who you learn with. And so I think also that was really powerful for me.
I think, and yeah, I think maybe perhaps the question that was talking about the specific business in Africa, it doesn't matter if you haven't taken the that particular elective. It's about, yeah, how the wider ecosystem of the MBA helped you like widen your mind about it. Bule.
Yeah, I think the only thing and to echo your words, what I'd really sort of add is that, I mean, I've always covered Africa, to be honest, like across SSAA, but there's definitely markets that I knew about theoretically that I'd never really thought about sort of going there or investing into those markets. And the prime example was we set up a trek to East Africa, and the trek went to Kenya and Rwanda. I'd never been to Rwanda. It was a theoretical concept, and the part of the trek is that you go, you see businesses, you sort of learn about how business is done in a particular market. And I'd never really been to Rwanda. I ended up not actually going because I had to come back for FinTech in London, but because I helped organize it and I had a really good view of Rwanda. The funniest thing is I actually spend more time in Rwanda now than Kenya. But because I was so open to it and I learned so much about it, I was like, oh, okay. Like over and above just what I sort of learned on a macro level, I know businesses there. I think at the time, what was really popular or was really doing well was the blood, the drone delivery service for blood in Kigali, and it was quite pioneering. They were doing their thing, and so the team spent a lot of time there. But because of that, I was so open to Kigali that I'm in Kigali every 2 months now, because to me, stopping a theoretical economy that I could reference, but now it's like, oh, I actually know businesses there, I know people from there. And so that helped a lot, to be honest, because some things stop being a desktop exercise and they become more practical, and you go, oh, actually, that would be really practical where I am. South Africa is really great, we do this and this and this, but when you really think about like technology, we're not leapfrogging. So sort of learning that, going, oh, actually, I can see how this can be practical where I'm from.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good experience and anecdote to tell the audience. What about you, Katkani?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I was part of the 2020 group. So sort of the last 6 months of our program, that's when COVID happened. So all of these big plans about exploring and doing a business in Africa, etc., those were cancelled. I think more broadly, I mean, a lot of my work prior to the MBA was more focused on the developed markets. We've got offices there, so US, UK. But I think personally, just coming back from the MBA, I think for me, what it's really helped about, I think it's just opening my mind up to everything else that is around me, whether it's in South Africa, but more than anything, it's in broader Africa. I think it just brought something alive in me around a passion for Africa. And I think it was just the proximity of relationships that we had. I mean, in our group, there was about 30 or 33 Africans, and we spent so much time together. And even from that, there's just been very close circles. So there's people that, you can easily just call up. I was at AfroChair in 2022. And I mean, I connected with 2 friends from the MBA. I was at a Zambia wedding in January this year. Again, someone from the MBA. So I think personally, it's really been more about connecting and being part of this bigger African network, and really just realizing how much I was missing out. I think traditionally as South Africans, we don't travel out of the country. Like you get raised in South Africa, you get educated in SA. And for a lot of us, the MBA was an opportunity to actually leave the country, pack your life up into suitcases and leave the country. So that alone was just eye-opening, and it's just forced me to exist in a world that is much bigger than the one I was used to.
That is very powerful, and we're so used to like living in our own little world, and when you come to an MBA like the one at Oxford, where you're exposed to 70 plus different nationalities, then yeah, your mind definitely expands. And it's great to hear that you're still in contact with but you still have friends obviously all over the world, but particularly in Africa, and you've been invited to weddings. I'm sure that all of you have similar anecdotes to tell. Hannah, I know you were talking about the fact that you didn't take the business in Africa in particular. That's fine, but what do you think about like the similar question, expanding your horizons within the continent?
Yeah, I mean, I was in Kati's class, so I do think that COVID did a special thing to us, particularly the Africans. A lot of us were not able to leave in time before everything shut down, and then all our countries were on the red list for a long time. So we were forced, if you will, we were already bonding, but we were forced to really get close and personal. And I think it does open up your mind to other things, things that you've never thought about. We had people from everywhere, North Africa, Southeast. I think we were the first class to have the biggest number of Africans. So we had a very, very diverse group, being able to learn more about what happens in, North Africa on a personal and cultural level, but also in terms of business culture, what happens in Nigeria and Ghana and West Africa and East Africa and the like. So I think we were very fortunate in a way to have COVID, because it really did bring us a lot closer together, and it really did make us ask certain questions about how the world works, what was happening at that time, what we were seeing. It was also the time of George Floyd. There was a lot of things happening that were forcing a lot of very powerful conversations for the Africans, but broadly in the class. So yeah, I think it is a special thing to go to an MBA that is as diverse as the Oxford MBA tends to be.
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you, Hannah, for your input. I think it's very valuable for everybody attending to hear your opinion, and obviously all the panelists as well. I think that you mentioned as well, obviously, the Oxford environment and the Oxford ecosystem. So it's not just about the MBA, but you also have the opportunity to be part of the University of Oxford and the wider network that brings, the colleges and everything. So I would like to then now touch a little bit more about the wider Oxford ecosystem and your experience with the year that you had here. I know perhaps for those who were affected by COVID, it would have been slightly different than those who weren't. But let's talk about what is it in your view that caught the attention of you to make you decide to choose Oxford, and why do you think our audience perhaps should choose to come here for following their dreams of having a career in finance? Let's start with Charlene.
Yeah, so I think, as it goes without saying, I mean, the panel is focused on Africa. I think for me, when I did my research, I did see that Oxford is very intentional in terms of ensuring that there is the African representation within the cohorts, and the the Africa focus within the MBA program. I think is also something that was key for me, because I knew that I definitely wanted to come back home. And so I think for me, it really was a good match. Another thing was the time as well. I was like, I needed to complete MBA within a year. And obviously Oxford is a really good brand. And I was like, it really definitely was top for me in terms of the time that I would take to complete the MBA. And obviously coupled with the fact that, the focus on the African continent and just expanding my networks across Africa was also just key for me in terms of now choosing the program. Of course, outside of Oxford, there is the college activities, which I think were also quite interesting for me. I think it was an opportunity to get out of the business ecosystem, or Said Business School, and just to plug myself into the wider Oxford community, because I can say that I was able to expand my networks across PhD candidates or candidates who are pursuing other master's courses, and with that comes other insights. And for me, I think that was also really, really beneficial and quite interesting for me. And so yeah, so I think that's, in summary, why I chose the program.
Thanks, Charlene. What about you, Bukle?
I think I was quite practical about my choice, to be honest, right? I did my undergrad in the US, and high school in the US. So I think right off the bat, I knew I didn't want to do North America in the times of Trump, to be honest. I just was like, that's not really something I'd like to do. I think I wanted to be close enough to home. If anything happened, I could get on a 10-hour flight, which is also very practical. But I think because my particular view of it was that I kind of really wanted to expand not just the finance angle, but really bigger thinking about things. I think Oxford just made more sense because the bigger university has so much to offer. Over and above, like, I love really interesting things. People who do amazing economic research in the greater university, not just the Said, across Africa, across the world. So I really like the concept of sort of being able to sit at a college and learn about something super random that has nothing to do with me, will probably never affect me, but really does give actually, what I'm doing here in my tiny little corner could be affected by this, maybe really deep down the line. I think that's sort of that thinking about the greater university and the research everyone was doing really, really did appeal to me. And I think really that was it. And I think what was it called now? Now I really am starting to feel really old. We used to have an entrepreneurship center right next to the college, which also had some of the best lectures. So from just Tim Cook of Apple, being able to sit down with him and have conversations about business. So things like that really, really did appeal to me. Said is really great, but the greater ecosystem is, honestly, you can't put a price on that. And for me, I spent quite a bit of time. I really wish I could remember what the name of the place is called, but it was right next to Said.
Was it the foundry? Not the foundry.
It was the foundry. It was the foundry. Like Said itself has really had really good. Actually, it was, to be honest, it was tied to Said. Some of the best lectures I've been to, and I love learning about things. So if it has anything to do with business, not just Africa focused, they always had a really cool speaker who you could sort of really learn a lot about. And I think for me, learning about the foundry as well before coming to Oxford was definitely a tick in the right box. I looked at it a few places, and to me, that sort of spoke more to what I was trying to achieve.
Thank you so much, Buhle. I think that's a very, very powerful. Like, yeah, the Foundry. I think that the Entrepreneurship Center is still there. So, and we have speakers from all over the world. We have the Skull Forum as well. We recently had the Africa Forum too, which I'm sure like you participated in the Africa Forums. What about you, Hannah? What do you think was the wider ecosystem, the Oxford system, the highlights for you?
Well, the first most obvious one, Oxford is the best university in the world for a reason. So that was a big draw. For me, much like Buhle, I had spent enough time in the US, so I was not looking to do a US master's. I was also looking to be a little bit closer to the African continent, so a little bit, also a 10-hour flight home, after having lived so far and it taking so long to get home should anything happen. So from a personal perspective, I had a lot of motivation to move to Europe. The motivation for Oxford was, I think there is something very special about Oxford. And if there is an opportunity to visit it, I highly recommend. It is a very special place. I think the air is literally different. Maybe that's just because I live in a big city, London now, that's polluted all the time. But it's a very, very calming place. It's a very good place to think, to have interesting conversations with interesting people from literally everywhere. The Oxford Union is very well known around the world. It is a very interesting place where very interesting debates happen, and an opportunity to learn about different perspectives, to challenge your own prejudice about certain things that you think you know about the world. I think that's it's in the culture of Oxford. It's about questioning and learning and opening up your mind. And I think there are very few places where you can get that kind of environment and that kind of engagement with other people. And for me personally, I think it's always great to be surrounded by people you think are smarter than you. You learn a lot of things. And Oxford is full of very, very, very smart people.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you so much. Katakani?
Thanks, Flo. I think the ladies have covered some amazing points which really stick out for me as well. But prior to the MBA, I'd done a lot of work in our UK London business. So I think already that was kind of decided in terms of which part of the world I would be going. Just the familiarity for me informed the decision. But I must say that I attended the Oxford information session in South Africa, I think 2 or 3 times. So the first time was more just getting information. The second time, I just wanted to make sure that these people are actually selling me something that is that I can verify. And then the third time when I attended the information session, that's when I definitely decided that it's Oxford is the place for me. And having the alumni attend these information sessions and give their stories as to what their experiences were, life before, during, and after the MBA. That helped in my decision making. So I think I must say, I don't advise this, but I had my eggs in one basket. It was only Oxford. I didn't apply anywhere else. I just felt it within me. I can't explain it. I didn't have an interest in going anywhere else. And that was really from the stories, the personal stories from the alumni that were shared. And that's how I was convinced. But more on the just broader university ecosystem and what you can tap into. I mean, I was part of the Oxford choir. which was also short-circuited by COVID. I was part of Oxford Strategy Group. We entered a competition with the Foundry. I think we made it to probably the second final round, if I'm correct. And I think the prize money was up £5,000. So there's just so many other things that you can do. You learn how to pitch for business. So for me, Foundry was just really learning how to come up with an idea, draw it up, stand in front of potential investors and actually pitch for it. So that is something that stands out for me. But more than anything, the strong message that I received from the information sessions was the social impact work and just the social impact theme that cut across a lot of the work that Oxford does. So for me, that stood out. It wasn't just about getting an MBA and that's it, because I could have done that back home. So I wanted more than just a typical MBA experience. So that also informed my choice.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing with us, Katakani. And I'm going to move on to our last question, because I don't know how time's gone so fast, but thank you so much all for giving your time. So the last question I want to ask is, as a tip for the people that are listening to you guys, if you could give them one tip, whether it is about things that you wish you could have done in hindsight, or a tip that now that you work in finance, and this obviously there is an interest of working in finance from the audience, if you could give them one tip of one of the things that you lived through the MBA that you wish you could have done, or maybe a tip for the careers, how when they're searching for a job, what is one thing if they could take away from you that with your experience you would recommend them to have? Now, I'm going to maybe go to Buhle.
A finance tip. I think maybe I have two tips. One tip is honestly spend that money. It sounds terrible. Generally, at some point, I think you go. When I first got there, I was like, oh, I gotta save money. I'm here, but I'm having, do I really want to spend this much money on all these outings and these trips, etc.? But some of the best friends you'll make, but also some of the best connections you'll make, which also come in very handy business-wise later on, are the ones that you make on these random trips. So someone's like, oh, we're going skiing. You're like, a few people were like, oh, we're terrible skiers. And you're like, but just the group of people are going, you're like, actually, we're probably going to collaborate on something in 5 years. We're probably going to collaborate on something in 10 years. So spend that money, even if it's not there. But a finance tip is, if there's an internship, I did an internship through the career services the summer before we finished, / actually after as well. It honestly didn't pay very much money, but it also gave me a bit of time to sort of gather my thoughts a little bit around what I wanted to do next. I found that 12 months was not as much time as I would have liked. And so the internship in London was a really nice little buffer, which I got through the career services. So even if it wasn't paying me a ton of money, it really did help to sort of just angle me and give me time to think and pay at least enough for me to live in London and sort of go to the interviews that I wanted to go to, which I thought was really, really useful. So spend the money on yourself and fun things, but also from a finance perspective, if you can and you can afford to have that buffer, take a bit more time, do an internship that doesn't really sort of push you financially. But I actually also learned a lot on the internship because I'd always covered Asia and Africa, but I was now doing PE in London for a random private equity firm that worked with the career services. So that was really helpful.
Thank you, Buhle. So takeaways, invest in yourself and do that internship if you can and you have time. Great. Thank you. Hannah?
I think a tip I would give about the MBA, it's a short. Technically, it's only 9 months. So unlike a 2-year MBA, you don't have a lot of time to gather your thoughts, if you will. You sort of need to go in, I think the best approach, having an idea. So if you're going to do a 1-year MBA, you need to start thinking about what you want out of it before you even get to Oxford. So that by the time you get to Oxford, you have a plan and things will come at you and maybe you can be agile and pivot. But there's a lot of things that get thrown at you in that first 2 weeks of clubs, this, do this, do this, do that. And you can find yourself very quickly stretched very thin and very unfocused. So one recommendation I would give is that it is absolutely important to explore. That's why you're spending all this money. But definitely take some time before you get there to really think about things you prioritize, and always reference back to that when things are happening around you, to prioritize what activities you want to participate in. I would say the other thing is, whether you're in finance, whether you're doing something else, all careers are about relationships. Build relationships. The biggest value that you will get from this degree, besides the actual piece of paper, is the people that you will meet and the relationships that you will build. So build the relationships, and not just in the business school, everywhere.
Thank you, Hannah, for your tip. That's great to know. Katakani?
Thanks, Flo. Definitely continuing with the trend on thinking about how short the program is. I would say if you are able to just stick around a little longer, think about it. I think I had about 4 months before, just when I finished class and then when I had to start my job. I'm in a bit of time, but I mean, it wasn't as enough as I wish it could have been. So think about, I mean, this is the only time you're going to get, if you're a working professional now, this is probably one of the only times in your lives where you'll get a chance to actually unplug from a system that you've been a part of. So I think if you're going to do like a 1+1 program, I think start thinking about it. If you're going to do an MBA and then a stint at a startup, already be starting to think about it. A second tip would be to stop, like literally, like teach yourself how to stop once you're in the MBA, because there's so many things that are happening. So if you need to just remove yourself at times and just get time to think and reflect and plan properly and then re-engage again, do it, because things are not going to wait for you. There's always something happening. There's a dinner here, there's a talk here, there's literally everything. And I think the third and final thing on my side is, a lot of us, or probably a lot of people that I spoke to in that first quarter, a lot of us didn't realize that we're actually struggling with imposter syndrome. You get there and I mean, people have made it into the program and some people are doubting themselves. They wonder how they could have made it. They're comparing themselves. I think it's just remind yourself that you applied, you got through, you are there. Don't doubt yourself and make the best of that opportunity. So I think that is important. And if you're used to a lot of sun, stock up on vitamin D, because you definitely do feel it. Stock up on vitamin D, especially in that first tranche of the year. You really feel it in just your energy levels as well. So these are some of the practical things that you need to think about.
That is a very practical tip. And you know what? Yeah, we all struggle with that here. Like, I'm originally from Mexico and I struggle. I've lived in the UK for 12 years and I miss that sunshine. Although I'll tell you, it's sunny today. It's not always as bad. But thank you so much, Katakani. And Charlene.
Thanks, Flo. I think the ladies have really highlighted most of what I had wanted to say. But I think for me, one thing that I'd probably add is, yes, the time is short, but you can also use this opportunity to completely step out of your comfort zone. So, I mean, if you are wanting to participate in a debate, you've always wanted to do something, or there's this thing called the MBAT, you can showcase your talent. Like it's just literally that year that you can do whatever it is that you'd never have thought of doing. And yes, as Budle had said, spend that money. It will definitely come back, hopefully, in future. But yeah, I think for me, the highlight was definitely the people that I met, and also being able to, I wish that I stepped out of my comfort zone more. I think I did a lot of things within my comfort zone. In terms of my career, professional career things, I did some things outside of my comfort zone, but then from a personal perspective, I would definitely recommend just trying to do something out of a comfort zone, especially because of the time. It's quite limited. It goes by so quickly, but you should have the time of your life. You definitely have fun.
Thank you, Charlene, for sharing that with us. And I would like to say once more, thanks to the panel for joining me today, for sharing their experience, sharing the time. I hope you all find it useful. This session was recorded, so you will be able to find it as well. For those of you who signed up for the session, you will receive it over email. But if you have any questions, please reach out to the email that you can see on the slide. It's oxfordmba@sbs.ox.ac.uk. And I'm sure that the panel would be happy to answer any questions if you have any. You can reach out maybe on LinkedIn, just connect with people, because that is important in your journey of researching what you want out of the MBA. You were able to hear from their experience in this past hour. But if you want to ask any further questions, either to ourselves in admissions or individually to the panelists, please reach out to them on LinkedIn or by email to us. Thank you so much, ladies. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thanks for sharing your experience with us today. Have a lovely day.